Thank you for joining and welcome. If you struggle to answer confidently when senior leadership asks what your affiliate channel is worth, this session is for you. And do you have the answer? If you don't, we're hopeful that you do after joining us today. We're walking through the incrementality playbook that we use at Acceleration Partners, which is a 4-step framework for auditing your program, understanding what genuinely drives revenue, and gives your leadership the clarity to make smarter decisions faster and where the budget needs to go. My name is Chelsea Holt, and I'm the VP of Account Management here at AP. And joining me today are John Clayton, who is our Chief Strategist, and Benjamin Heller, who is our Associate Director of Client Analytics. Between us, we have looked inside hundreds of programs and discussed this topic quite in depth. So we're excited to get into it. First, I'm actually going to go to you, John. You've spent your whole career in the partnership space. How often do brands genuinely know what their affiliate channel is worth, and why is that number typically wrong?
Well, I think it's a great question, and the reality is, most brands are really challenged to understand the true value of their affiliate channel. And looking at the way that platforms track versus the way that brands track things internally, there's always a very large mismatch in that data, and so in order to be able to understand real true value and what's being driven through the channel, there's just generally a large discrepancy between platform and internal numbers. There's various reasons for that, but a lot of it comes down to attribution and crediting logic that exists within the traditional affiliate channel, and how that differs from the way in which brands may be looking at channels or mixed media modeling internally. So the reality is, while a platform may state one number in terms of overall performance, it's generally going to be very different than internal numbers sort of land on. And so the person on the ground looking at the affiliate channel day to day might have a very different perspective of value in the channel than their senior leadership do, because there's just such a large gap in that data.
Thank you. Ben, our data guru here at AP, you have probably seen the most of the data from all angles, both from platforms, internal client data tools, and then also AP Vision. What does it look like when you open up a client's program and realize the numbers do not add up across all of these different facets?
Well, I'd say first, as John said, it's not a surprise. It's something that is absolutely expected. You have years and years of different people with different goals and different uh, aspirations trying to develop systems and integrate systems that will tell the story they want to see. So we will typically find that the affiliate platform is a great representation of attribution within itself. However, within the full, mixed marketing model, you will generally have two or three other platforms internal that the client has had for years and years that commonly disagree with each other. They will say one channel is worth more than the other. They will commonly find affiliate partners of different types and just say they're not incremental. They didn't drive anything. We had a slight bump from paid search, so therefore this has nothing to do with affiliate. And we generally find that affiliate is commonly the last plate to get served. All the other channels tend to get more preference, and since affiliate came a bit later, it's just the last one. So uh, very, very common to see that if anybody else has their hand in getting that transaction, affiliate will not get credit, even though we have great content partners that drive, true conversations and thoughts with our clients.
Yeah, I'd say to Alan and Ben, like one of the challenges that we see consistently is that, especially the way that some of the MMM platforms work, like they require impression based data, right? And
Yeah.
the affiliate channel, due to the nature of how we work, we just don't have that. And so while other channels benefit from impressions that maybe originate customer journey and start at the sort of upper funnel side of things and go into that modeling, well, the affiliate channel is doing that in large quantities, and we actually don't get credit for that. So there's a substantial mismatch in the actual customer engagement with marketing channels, specifically around affiliate, and how those models pick up our industry specifically. And so, if you look at things from an objective perspective on the outside, you see that the partner channel is creating a ton of content that consumers are engaged with initially at the upfront of their journey. The consistent draw from that would be that, yeah, this stuff is valuable and it's leading to the right sorts of engagements that we want with customers. The problem is those models cannot account for that, and therefore they automatically discount the value that the affiliate channel brings. So smart marketers have to look at data outside of their sort of default models, because they're just not counting all the different levers that the affiliate is touching when it comes to customer engagement.
You make a great call out there on the difference between, impressions and clicks and transactions. The lack of impression data for affiliate commonly causes us huge headaches. And since we just do not exist in that first initial touch point, um, there's no credit to be given. If they were to measure by clicks, it'd be significantly different, but that's just not the way these models are set up. So there's just natural disagreement.
Blends to seeing a lot of high cost on the internal side, but not seeing that accredited revenue as well. But wanted to get in a bit more around how incrementality means something to every business and what I think is important for the audience to understand. And while it's easy to hear, it's different in practice, but incrementality is not a one size fits all approach. And that's important because every business is different and every business values something different within their performance, their financials, and their customer journey. So, what is really important when we're going through this discovery phase is the discovery process. What KPIs are most important to day to day, to leadership, to the people that are reading the P&L? Do they care more about new customers, efficient spend, different types of touch points in the journey, as John and Ben, you mentioned? So, John, I would love to hear from you. Like, as we start going through the discovery process, when we know that a client is interested in it, what are some of the common triggers that bring a client to AP saying that we need help to sort out our incrementality?
Yeah, I mean, this is a question we pretty much have with every single client that comes to us, right? And the typical lead into that is, they say that leadership feels that the affiliate channel is not incremental. So the first answer, the question that I would ask them when they present that, I would say, well, what does incremental mean to you? And oftentimes there's not really a definition that client will actually have, which is a challenge to begin with. But we help solve that challenge, right? So understanding exactly what that means from their side is really critical. And typically it'll be things around new customer acquisition. It has preference over a returning customer. They're understanding the sort of activity from a customer perspective, whether they would have converted on a sale or not converted on a sale, with or without that marketing channel being involved in it. Those sorts of things are elements that we look at in terms of helping to develop what that incremental measurement framework should be. And then we run programs against that framework, right? So everyone is different. I will say that. And to your point, Chelsea, there's no one size fits all. The sort of incrementality calculation has to be specific to each brand. And we look at different data points that we have access to within our channel and then with internal client data, and help build those strategies and measurement systems and recommendations for how we actually manage our clients based upon all those different elements.
Thank you. Ben, let's get a little bit tactical here, to spiff off of what John just said. When we come to you, when it comes to you in discussion and we're in that audit phase, obviously we are looking at all of different types of data points. What are you trying to find and seek out? And what tells you whether or not a client is going to be straightforward or complicated when it comes to diagnosing, looking at the data, seeing some of the gaps, and helping us to build that scorecard in this preliminary playbook and audit building phase?
Yeah, great question. I would say there are two key factors. The amount of detail you can give us in the data and the amount or the reliability of that data, the flow of that data. How often can you make that available to us? Is it something that you've worked with our engineers and we have great systems to pipe data in every single morning? So when your team signs on, they're ready to go. Reports are all built up. Insights are there ready to be gained. We also have clients where they'll email us an hour before the weekly meeting and tell you to find out incrementality. And of course, that just doesn't work. So if you can get us your internal transaction level data and give us enough time to analyze it, preferably enough time to build some tools around it and build a nice pipeline, it just makes all the conversations flow because we're all talking apples to apples. We still have the issue, of course, with the different systems disagreeing with each other, but at least now everybody's reading from the same book. We all have access to the same ideas. There are no what we call surprise meetings where you show up with your network data and like, great, we're up 5%. Actually, you're down 10% according to this black box internal marketing model that you didn't have access to, or you had access to most weeks, but not this past week. So it's consistency and it's detail. From there, the quantification and the tool building and the reporting, it's all very straightforward. It's really much more of an engineering project than it is an analysis project at that point.
And John, I've seen you pretty hands-on recently in building out several new scorecards for clients such as TUI and Vistaprint. What typically gets in the way at this stage and how do you work through it?
So I think one of the biggest challenges we have is just the internal team dynamics and how the partnership group might be siloed away from other marketing channels. In order for us to effectively build out incrementality methodology for a client, we need to have buy-in from the larger marketing organization. I think we've touched on this. Affiliate is often seen as this very siloed channel, and the reality is that it intersects with everything that clients are doing, and in fact, even today in a much larger way with the way in which AI citations and GEO is being influenced by partnership content. And so, unfortunately, affiliate teams are often kind of left on their own because we don't, again, integrate a native way into MMM modeling or the ways in which most marketing teams are looking at data these days. And subsequently, as we try to build out this scoring rubric and methodology, we need that sharing of data and that engagement from the broader marketing organization. When we don't have that, it really is a struggle for us as an agency to provide that strategic guidance and recommendation that we're very good at doing once we're brought into the fold. Again, if we're left on our own, the platform data, while great in terms of revenue recognition within the channel, is what it's capable of doing. It really doesn't touch on the broader marketing mix for brands, and that's where we just see gaps, and we need to be brought into those conversations.
Thank you,
John. I would, if you don't mind. John, I'd say you make a really great point there, and it just speaks to you get out of the affiliate platform what you put into it. And your marketing team, if you keep them siloed, if they don't have access to the resource, if they don't have access to the data, there isn't a win to be had there. So yeah, absolutely bringing that in. And I would say another factor that we see very commonly is biases that are integrated into different systems, processes, different relationships within the client organization itself. It really is wild how many different variables you have.
Yeah, I mean the biases are real though too, right? And I think this is something I think the affiliate industry has struggled to own for a long time. I mean oftentimes there's sort of negative association with the channel, and for good reason, right? Like I think our industry has struggled because we've had actors in the industry that have done stuff that is truly not incremental to brands, right? And it's been brought up time and time again. It seems like we can go a couple of years without some story leaking about an affiliate doing something really questionable, or a network allowing certain things to happen that really as a marketer is not legit, and we constantly have to overcome that. But again, I think marketers who understand the value of the channel and allow their programs to be run the right way, the right strategic way, the way that we run them at AP, they understand the power and the value that you can get from partnerships. But there is a right and strategic way to run these programs, and there is one that again will really quickly get shut down and pulled from budgets if it's done in the improper ways.
Absolutely. If I'm a listener and putting myself in their shoes, I want to talk a little bit about just data readiness and understanding. Am I at this point of evaluating my program's incrementality? How do I really go internally if I don't have this data available? Whether you are a large, Fortune 500 brand where you have to cut through several different teams to get this data, or if you are more of a mid-market, mid-tier brand, it might be a little bit easier to get someone on the phone. Ben, can you talk a little bit about your experience and for the listeners on the call, what would make their lives easier in having these conversations internally to get this data that we need?
Well, I think as John mentioned earlier, commitment from leadership on all levels and the ability for that leadership to affect change and to provide resources to your affiliate team. For example, just simple access to the data team, the engineers, the people who pipe the data around, people who collect the data from the different systems. They commonly have this encyclopedic knowledge of things that are going on and how there are nuances and there are tricks and there are even sometimes gaps in your data. But if you get the commitment from leadership to get a half decent pipeline of that data, a regular report at the very least emailed to you or access to some system, preferably setting up a pipeline between your systems and our systems, that is the absolute table stakes for doing this incrementality work. If you do not have the commitment to have regular, unhindered access to the detailed data you need, you're just not ready yet. You can become ready. You can start to show the value with the data that is available. But the more you bring in, the more you're going to be able to tell the story. The more you're going to be able to provide transparency. You're going to be able to overcome these biases. You're going to be able to show with data why we're actually producing what we say we're producing. And you'll even see from us, like there are, tools available to us to quality check our own work. We have fraud monitoring tools. We have click path attribution tools. We can get in and we can really tell you exactly what's going on if we're provided with the data. So readiness is data availability, the quality of it, the consistency. Can you talk to a data team or can you get access to the tools that they use, the core data, what we call the source of truth data? If you can get that, we can start the conversation. From there, the question is, how well can you get the data to us? We can start if you can just email it to us. It's much better if we have a pipeline and our tools are set up to do that any number of different ways. But can you, as one of our client contacts, someone we work with closely and strategize with, can you get the access to that granular data whenever you need it?
And John, sometimes we were talking a little bit earlier about internal politics. There's several different teams that you need to work through. Sometimes internally, it could sound like a massive project to gather this data in the right view. Obviously, data science teams and internal analytic teams, they have their own pipeline and their own scoping that they need to do. So it might come off as a massive project to them. And our client contact may be worried that they don't have everything that they need in order to start building this data pipeline, getting what we need to build out this scorecard. Tell us, what would you say to that person who is listening to this and thinking that? And how do we reassure them that we could kind of take a bit of a crawl, walk, run approach to their incrementality needs?
Yeah, I think that the concept that this is a massive project does come up as we just start discussing with clients. I think we want to understand data first and foremost before we start doing any sort of major project on it. And I think that the guidance I would give to any client that's engaging with us again is we are your trusted partner, and working with us to actually get us data in the first place is the first place we should start, right? And it doesn't have to be perfectly executed and pared down from their team side, right? We can definitely ingest a lot of information and then filter through that to help start making guidance and recommendations on our end in terms of doing the work. But the first step is access and looking at things and measuring it. So before we make any sort of broad sweeping changes to a partnership channel, we need to have that sort of visibility. So the first step really is, let's make sure that we are able to understand your data on your side and how it compares to platform data. From there, you can start to develop strategies around an appropriate scoring methodology and incrementality methodology for the channel, just in terms of how you're actually measuring that. And again, there's going to be a large discrepancy between internal data versus platform data. Now, once you've defined what that measurement methodology is, then you can start implementing strategies and practices within the channel to drive towards actions and activity and partners that adhere to the higher incremental things that you're looking to drive through your marketing efforts. And then, you go and execute against that. But the first step, if we think of this crawl, walk, run approach, crawling to that data is the first thing that we need, right? We have to have visibility there. Otherwise, again, we have ideas and concepts around what we believe to be incremental. The reality is every program, as we said, is very different. And what is incremental to one brand may be non-incremental to another. So we have to have internal source of truth to be able to balance that and make that appropriate measurement.
John, I'd also add, I challenge the notion that this is a large project. I mean, you have your internal data. You're already piping it to the affiliate network. You have your data science teams, you have your analytics teams, your projection teams. You're already piping the data around. It's the same data. You just need to make an additional pipe that does the same exact thing you're already doing and send a little bit our way. So it does seem a bit daunting because everybody thinks, data and engineering, it's going to have to be a big thing. I assure you, you've already done 90% of the work. And a lot of the data that you're going to need to send us, it exists. You're already sending it around your org. Just kind of CC us on the pipe and the rest will take care of itself.
Thank you, Ben and John. So we talked about how we get the data. We talked about when we're piping it and how we are scoring different types of KPIs that are of importance to the client. Ben, so once we have that and the scorecard is built in place and the model is running, what does good actually look like? And what could you tell a client at that point that perhaps we could not tell them before?
Right. So the importance of the scorecard is getting all of their notions, biases, and all their priorities in place. And it's a mix of all of them, and they're all, relatively important. So what good looks like is typically the client contact will have a concept of this publisher we feel is very, very incremental. So we will figure out how to create the scoring system to give them credit they feel is due. What they do not expect is the 4 or 5 or 6 other publishers that then they've never talked about that also score very well because of the way that system is set up. So that's the first indication of good. The second indication is when you produce the score and the results are wildly off, or that one person you thought was the most incremental is among the least, and you have all these other options available to you, you've essentially broken open the way they do business, and you have challenged them in the way they think. And they are now able to just take a step back and say, okay, well, I told you exactly how we're going to score this. We worked together. We figured out what was possible, and we figured out how to present this and tell the story. And it turns out we did that perfectly, but I was wrong. And that's a beautiful statement. And once we get that, we can start working through things again and again. And I would say, as soon as you build these models, the very next step is adjusting them and just constantly adjusting them. We've talked a great deal about incrementality being different for every single client. I'd argue it's different for every client in every quarter. We are constantly adjusting these models. There are new things that come up. And it could be as simple as a internal strategic shift. You could be pushing for volume, or you could be instead trying to claw back that volume and trying to stay under budget. You might have an affiliate partner that decides their costs are going to go way up, or we might have gotten some news about changes in the market and we no longer want to work with that one, what was the most important partner. So the best part about the methodology and the scoring is its ability to change and change constantly. And then once you put on paper, I feel that this is worth a certain score, I feel this is where the value is, well, the data itself will display that. Okay, if that's important to you, here's how everybody ranks out. And we commonly like to do a simple plot to show, the value of that partner by your scoring system and the value of that partner by sheer volume. And so we look for partners that are scoring great, but are not producing volume. Can we get them to increase volume? Sometimes you can, sometimes you cannot. And it doesn't necessarily mean if you cannot increase the volume, you want to get rid of them. They can be an important player. They could be a contributing publisher. They could have a grand halo effect in the marketplace that drives other things. We see this all the time with content partners. Then we find some that are extremely high volume, but they're not efficient as far as your score goes. So we'll actually ask them to cut back, change your methods a little bit, offer us different options we haven't had before.
Thank you, Ben. And to say it directly, you've really teed me up to frame this, but the scorecard in the model basically becomes the backbone of everything in the program for what we do. And from the client team delivery side, it is how we go about commission rate changes to identify where we are spending just to spend and we're not seeing any type of growth. It allows us to put more into investing in partners that we are seeing that growth in. It allows us to identify where we need further diversification efforts for partner recruitment, media buy allocations, and ultimately it helps us and also our client contacts respond when a CMO or a CFO are asking to redefine KPIs or questioning performance within the program. And so we do have a case study that you'll be able to find on our website where, for example, one of our brands, we were able to save 23% of commissions once we rolled out this scorecard and were able to re-optimize the program to make sure that we weren't seeing diminishing returns where we were seeing the same type of growth, but paying the same. So what I would love to do also for the audience is share out a visual of what the scorecard looks like so that they could see. But this framework ultimately, it allows us to be agile. Ben, as you mentioned, it allows us to constantly evolve it. It is not set it and forget it, and it's not a one-time deliverable. And so that's AP's true value, is managing that complexity from being able to have these conversations with the client to then getting all of the data in the right place, supporting you in scoring, and then ultimately delivering a package scorecard. But it's also everything that happens after that as well, all intersects. But for John, obviously you are a strategic visionary here in regards to the incrementality conversation and what you've been discussing with clients and client leadership. I would love to jump over to you and take a step back to the larger strategic picture. How do you think about incrementality as a competitive advantage for brands and not just simply a measurement exercise and program management protocol?
That's a great question. I mean, look, at the end of the day, brands are competing for share of voice across the partnership channel. And where brands choose to invest those dollars and how they choose to partner with different affiliates is going to influence the amount of exposure they have across those partners. And brands have an incrementality scoring methodology that works for them. They can choose to invest with the partners that are ultimately driving higher value in the sorts of behaviors that they want to see for that customer journey. And they are going to probably divest investment from partners who are less incremental. And from a competitive perspective, what that means is that if we think of ultimately pulling spend from partners who have historically been seen as really valuable in the partnership channel, but actually fully understanding that their incrementality, and pulling budget from them and reinvesting into those sort of partners where we know we're actually seeing true value, from a measurement perspective, we can have outsized returns on the overall health and value that brands are getting out of the channel. So it has been alluded to, whether that's investing in content partners, whether that's working with creators who are starting the buyer journey. Many of our clients now are heavily investing in GEO or AI citation work, with partners who are showing up on key competitive terms, so they have a larger share of voice. You have higher brand, scoring and affinity, those sorts of things, and so the investments that go into partners that are really driving true value is where you get the cutting edge in competitiveness, and not essentially wasting money on sales that you were very likely going to get anyways. And I think many programs in our industry are built probably towards that latter concept, where they're heavily spending and investing with partners who really, in our perspective, are not driving really any value for the brand.
Thank you. We're coming up on close, so I would love to ask everyone a quick question. I'll start with you, Ben. If someone was watching this and could take one action this week based on what we covered today, what would you want it to be?
Talk to your data team, see what access you have, see if you can get that internal data, see if you can access it regularly, test that for a week, see if you can pull it whenever you want. If you can, well, then what data you have available to you lets us know how we can measure your incrementality. If you have that, next step, of course, would be to work with leadership, but just work with the data team first. Get your access, get your granularity, get all those details. Then you're going to know exactly where you can pull levers.
John, same question to you. What action would you say for someone to take?
I would try to work with us to develop that incrementality score. It's free. It doesn't take us a huge amount of time to develop that initial blueprint and guidance. And from there, again, you can take a lot of various actions with the channel in terms of deciding where you want to continue to invest and how you want to develop strategy around it. But developing that scorecard is really the first thing that I would aim for.
If I were to answer my own question, I would say for you and then your colleagues and your leadership team to write down what incrementality means to the team right now. Is everyone aligned on that definition? If not, I definitely agree with John in looking at reaching out and taking the maturity score with AP. So with that, we are coming up on a close. So just to round us out for everybody in the audience, whether if you are just starting to think about incrementality or you're already running an affiliate program and you're wondering what your numbers are telling you and, if it is the truth, or if you are hearing internal rumblings of affiliate is not incremental and we need to cut budget, reach out to us, take the Incrementality Maturity Score. It's a free self-assessment that shows you where your program sits on the curve and what to do next. You could also book a complimentary 30-minute diagnostic call with our strategy team. You may probably see two of these faces on that call, and both options are linked in this video below. So thank you to Ben and John, and especially thank you to everyone who was watching. If this session was useful, share it with a peer, especially if they're still running on last click, and they will certainly thank you for that.